Pete Hegseth is facing more than just political backlash. He's being accused of exposing U.S. warplanes, a charge that shakes the foundations of trust, security, and responsibility in government. Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy isn't holding back, openly calling for Hegseth to resign after alleging that he shared classified military information in a Signal chat. If true, this wouldn't be some minor lapse in judgment. It could go down as one of the most serious breaches of operational security in recent memory, a story that raises questions about leadership, accountability, and the thin line between political defense and national security disaster. The allegation wasn't made in passing. Krishnamurthy came armed with examples of the very messages that were allegedly shared, holding them up as proof before a tense congressional audience.
Krishnamurthy.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for coming. Thank you for your service. Director Gabbard, you said no classified information was included in the Signal chat, correct?
That's correct.
And President Trump also said there was no classified information in the Signal chat, and Secretary Hegseth said nobody was texting war plans. There was absolutely no classified info in that chat. Lieutenant General Cruz, I'd like to talk to you about a couple things real quick. Executive Order 13526, Section 1.4a. This is the Trump administration's executive order with regard to classified information. It says, information shall be classified if its unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause damage to national security, including military plans, weapons systems, or operations. You don't disagree that that's accurately quoted, right?
That's an accurate quote from the executive order.
And DOD 5200.01, this is the DOD's manual on classification, says, quote, information shall be classified if its unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause describable damage to national security. This includes military plans, weapon systems, or operations. You don't disagree that I quoted that accurately, right?
That's also an accurate quote.
Can I show you I'd like to show you the text that Secretary Hegseth actually published to the world. Now, Lieutenant General Cruz, as Ranking Member Himes said, it says, time now, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. Then it says at 12:15 Eastern, F-18s launch first strike package. F-18s are military systems, correct? Weapon systems.
They are.
Okay. 1345, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch, MQ-9s. MQ-9s is a weapon system, correct?
They are.
Okay. I think applying the executive order as well as the DOD manual to this fact pattern, we clearly have weapon systems that have been identified. That is classified information. Now, the reason why it's important that this information not be disclosed is that we don't want the adversaries to know what's about to happen, right, sir?
Well, I would draw a small distinction there. You referenced and asked if that platform, those two platforms are weapon systems. They are, but those terms are used all across the globe in a lot of contexts. So it's really about how they're used in the context of this particular document. I just want to clarify that the use of those terms,
I understand.
Yeah.
In this situation, those are operational details.
They are operational details, but again, as you've quoted the DOD instruction, it's about operations. So as you further go down into what are the operational details, I think as we had a discussion yesterday, the important aspect, I think all of us are very familiar.
This is classified information. This is classified information. It's a weapon system as well as sequence of strikes as well as details about the operations. And so I think that just piggybacking off of what some other members have said, using the DOD's manual as well as the executive order in operation today with the Trump administration, this text message is clearly classified information. Secretary Hegseth has disclosed military plans as well as classified information. He needs to resign immediately. He needs to resign immediately, and a full investigation needs to be undertaken with regard to whether other similar signal chats are occurring in this administration. I'd like to turn my attention to another topic. Director Patel, according to the DOJ, in 2022, the FBI led Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, in my hometown of Chicago, valiantly led efforts to prevent a plot to attack Naval Station Great Lakes in Illinois. You don't dispute that, do you, sir?
I'm not familiar with it, but I don't dispute what you're telling me.
Thank you. A memo obtained by ABC 7 News of Chicago said that this task force will now be, quote, actively supporting, close quote, the Department of Homeland Security and its immigration enforcement. You don't dispute that either, do you?
I'm just not familiar with it, sir.
Okay. Sir, I just have to say, the DOJ has now tasked JTTFs to shift some resources to immigration enforcement efforts. And I don't say this lightly, if there's a terrorist attack anywhere in the country, including in Chicago, and it was because the JTTFs in part shifted resources, they'll be held to pay. Thank you, sir.
They weren't general statements, they weren't harmless banter. These were detailed communications that described launch times, specific aircraft, and confirmation from military command. One of the texts read, "Time now, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch." Another laid out even more detail. At 12:15 Eastern, F-18's launch first strike package. There was mention of trigger-based strike windows, target locations, and the deployment of MQ-9 drones. To the average person, these might look like just technical notes. But in a military context, they're operational gold. They provide not only a sense of timing but also the sequencing of U.S. strikes, something adversaries spend millions trying to guess and predict. Krishnamurthy didn't stop at presenting the texts. He tied them directly to the legal framework that governs classified information in the United States. He cited Executive Order 13526, signed during the Trump administration, which makes it unmistakably clear. Information is considered classified if its disclosure could reasonably be expected to damage national security. That includes military operations, weapons systems, or war plans. He backed it up with a second reference, the Department of Defense's own manual on classification, which essentially repeats the same standard. His case was devastatingly simple. Under the very rules Hegseth's administration had set, these messages checked every box of what counts as classified. And that's where the debate becomes unavoidable. Classification isn't about whether a word like F-18 is secret in itself. Everyone knows the U.S. military operates fighter jets. The existence of drones is no mystery. The issue isn't about the name of a weapon system, it's about how those details fit together. In intelligence, context is everything. A single word may not reveal much, but combine it with timing, location, and sequence, and suddenly you've built a map of operations. It's like a puzzle. One piece means nothing on its own but fit enough together and the full picture is visible. That's why the military treats operational security, or OPSEC, as sacred. Because while the public may not see the danger in a phrase or timestamp, adversaries know exactly how to use it. The stakes couldn't be higher. Timing, weapon systems, and strike windows aren't just abstract details. They're the foundation of combat advantage. Surprise is often the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. If adversaries gain even a few hours of warning, they can reposition forces, move high-value targets, or harden defenses. In the worst case, they can lay traps designed to exploit the predictability of U.S. strikes. That's why OPSEC isn't about secrecy for secrecy's sake, it's about lives. Violating it doesn't just embarrass an official, it risks missions and endangers the men and women carrying them out. Still, Hegseth and his allies have pushed back. They insist that no classified information was ever leaked. They argue the terms used, fighter jets, drones, are referenced in countless open-source documents and press releases. They claim the accusations are politically motivated, that they inflate ordinary details into scandal. But here's the problem with that defense: classification isn't about whether an individual fact is public, it's about how information is used in context. Everyone knows what a drone is. Not everyone knows the exact sequence in which drones will strike at a specific target at a specific time. And that's where Hegseth's alleged texts land firmly in the danger zone. Krishnamurthy's case also carried a sting of irony. He pointed out that the same administration now defending Hegseth had written the very rules that defined this as classified. Executive Order 13526 wasn't written by his opponents, it came from Trump's own White House. If those rules are ignored now, what message does that send? That rules apply only when convenient, that national security standards bend depending on who's being accused. That double standard is precisely what makes this controversy more than a routine political fight. The issue extends beyond whether Pete Hegseth personally mishandled classified material. It raises larger questions about the culture inside the administration itself. Is there a pattern of carelessness at the highest levels of government? Is there a sense that encrypted apps like Signal make it safe to casually share sensitive information, as though encryption erases the danger of leaking operational details? Experts warn that this mindset is dangerous. Encryption prevents outsiders from snooping, but it doesn't make classified details any less sensitive. If anything, it creates a false confidence that emboldens officials to share things they would otherwise keep out of writing entirely. And if this happened once, what are the chances it has happened before, or will happen again? That's why Krishnamurthy called not just for resignation but for a broader investigation, because this isn't just about one text thread. It's about whether there are more chats, more leaks, and more lapses of judgment hiding in plain sight. If operational details are being tossed around in encrypted chats among top officials, then America's adversaries don't need to spend fortunes on intelligence. They can just wait for another slip-up. The consequences reach beyond Washington. Allies and adversaries alike are paying attention. Allies rely on the United States to safeguard shared intelligence, often at great risk to their own operatives. If they believe American officials treat sensitive details casually, it erodes trust. Adversaries, on the other hand, see opportunity. They don't need to hack into Pentagon servers if there's already a pattern of self-inflicted leaks from the very top. That's what makes the call for resignation so explosive. It's not just about one man's fate, it's about the credibility of America's entire national security framework. If the rules can be bent or ignored for political convenience, then what's the point of having rules at all? And if the rules are enforced equally, then the precedent is clear. Even powerful figures like Hegseth must face consequences. Either way, this is a turning point. The fight now shifts to perception. Is this truly a resignation-level offense, or is it political theater designed to weaken an influential figure? Supporters of Hegseth say this is nothing more than a partisan hit job, a way to smear him with exaggerated charges. Critics argue the evidence speaks for itself, and that downplaying it undermines the seriousness of national security. Both sides know the stakes are enormous, not just for Hegseth personally, but for the broader debate over accountability in government. And the irony doesn't stop there. The controversy underscores a brutal reality. America's enemies don't always have to work hard to find vulnerabilities. Sometimes officials hand them over willingly, whether out of arrogance, carelessness, or political calculation. That's why this story matters beyond the headlines. Because if rules on classified information only apply to some people, then they're meaningless. And if they're meaningless, America's adversaries are already winning without firing a single shot. The question now is whether accountability will follow. If Hegseth did in fact cross the line, the calls for resignation won't just fade away, they'll grow louder, especially if evidence suggests this was part of a broader pattern of reckless behavior. If he's cleared, then critics will face accusations of overblowing the story. But either way, the precedent being set here is historic. How seriously does America take classified information? Is it sacred, or is it negotiable depending on who's involved? That's the crux of it, and that's why this moment could define the debate over national security for years to come. Because leaking operational details, whether intentional or careless, isn't just a scandal, it's a risk to lives, missions, and trust itself. So now the ball is in the court of the public and the government. Is this a political storm that will pass, or is it the kind of security breach that demands accountability at the highest levels? The outcome will send a message to every official, every ally, and every adversary watching. Either America enforces its rules on classified information, or it doesn't. And whichever way it goes, the world will take note.